What if there were no countries? No borders, no passports, no anthems, flags, or national holidays? That's the world we woke up to one morning, without warning, without vote. One by one, the lines on every map simply disappeared. At first, people thought it was a glitch. Phones, tablets, even classroom globes, everything now showed a single, unified landmass, no longer chopped into colors and names. A viral video showed a teacher spinning a globe in front of a stunned group of students. Where did they all go? A child whispered. By noon, world leaders had lost their titles. Prime ministers, presidents, kings and queens, they were citizens now, just like everyone else. Military forces stood still, confused. No commands came from above, because there was no above left to give them. The idea of nations, of ownership by imaginary lines, was gone. Not erased by war or revolution, but like a curtain drawn open, revealing something simpler behind. Some called it the Great Unmarking. Others said it was divine, or extraterrestrial. The most practical minds assumed it was the work of an unstoppable artificial intelligence, an entity that had decided humans couldn't handle borders responsibly. Whatever the cause, it had one rule: no divisions allowed. Try to re-establish a country, and your attempt would be neutralized, files would delete, meetings would fail, leaders would forget. It was as if the very concept of geopolitical separation had been disabled. The first few weeks were chaos. Airports shut down, unsure how to sort travelers, with no visas or customs. Lines vanished, but so did order. Some people rejoiced. They hugged strangers, declaring Earth a shared home at last. Others panicked. Who would govern? Who owned what? Without national budgets or borders, global infrastructure hung by threads. But something unexpected happened. People began to cooperate. Without the layer of nationalism between them, problems were suddenly shared. A drought in what used to be northern Africa was no longer someone else's problem, it was ours. Food was no longer foreign aid, it was dinner for your neighbors. Former borders became cultural zones, where history was honored but not enforced. The Berlin Wall site became a park of unity, its past preserved only in art and memory. People didn't lose their heritage, they just lost the boundaries around it. Money changed, too. Currencies merged into a global credit system. Corporations fought it, tried to relocate their bases to non-existent tax havens, but found they had nowhere left to hide. Tax avoidance collapsed overnight. So did military spending. With no enemies, tanks gathered dust. Soldiers became builders, medics, engineers. Satellites once used to spy now watched over wildfires, migration, and storms. There were challenges. Local tensions didn't vanish, culture clashes still flared, languages collided, and historical wounds didn't heal instantly. But without governments rallying people around flags, rage had fewer places to grow. The absence of us versus them weakened the old tribal instinct. Slowly, we learned to argue differently, not as enemies, but as roommates in a very large, very complicated house. Borders turned into gardens. Literally, the old US-Mexico divide became a 3,000-kilometer ribbon of community farms. The wall fragments were ground into stone tiles for benches. Along the old Kashmir line, Indian and Pakistani teachers taught together, under tents with no walls. Children born after the unmarking couldn't imagine the world before. They didn't understand why people used to fight over lines they couldn't see. It's like getting mad because someone stepped on your shadow. One teenager said during a history lesson, textbooks told stories of the past like mythology, tales of war, patriotism, division, strange, heavy things that no longer fit the present. Still, there were losses. Some felt adrift without a country to belong to. Athletes missed the thrill of competing under a flag. Songs lost verses. Some immigrants, once driven by the dream of becoming citizens, struggled to redefine what that meant. The world had grown more equal, but equality doesn't always feel like home. But time softened those edges. Over decades, the idea of belonging shifted. People formed new identities, not based on borders, but on goals. You could be part of the Reef Restoration Coalition, or the Sky Farmer Network, or the Multilingual Educators Circle. People joined movements, not countries. They pledged allegiance to the planet, to each other, or simply to peace. And still, on the oldest maps, you can see the faint ghost lines of what used to divide us. Mountain ranges named after wars, cities named after kings. We don't erase them, we study them. The way archaeologists study bones, not to mourn, but to learn. Because once, a long time ago, we lived in a world sliced into pieces. Then one day, all the lines vanished. And somehow, we stayed together.